A circle full of dogs. We put in oh, baby, let's go out there with a bunch of crazy dogs.
Bang! What's happening, people? It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Another episode of Giants Rush. Thanks for hanging out with us, where we talk Giants football 52 weeks of the year. Yes, we are here 52 weeks of the year. I'm not sure why, but we're here. And I got a great compliment 2 days ago that we are crushing the offseason, right? We got Patty Trainer on, we had Paul Dottino on, we had Justin Pugh on, and now we got our boy Ryan Dunleavy. He always hangs out with us at least once a year. Super fun, entertaining guy. And of course, you guys know and love him for all his Giants coverage. Let's bring in the guys. I got Shawnee B's in the house. Shawnee, what's up?
What's going on, Craig? How we doing?
I'm ready to talk some Giants football. Last night I was talking about tight ends on Giants Rush. It's hard not to talk Giants football. Looking forward to what Ryan's got. Yep. Let's bring in Chris.
Hey, Craig. Hey, Sean.
What up?
Dude,
what up?
For the record, you always sound so good now. That investment in the microphone, like you are a professional podcaster now.
No, that was the raise, that $2 raise you gave me.
Exactly.
I can afford it.
Damn sarcasm. All right, let's bring in Ryan, because he's on. Don't start asking a million nutty questions, because my man is on a hard stop. So let's bring in Ryan. Ryan, what's up, my friend?
I got 2 sick kids, so
that's the worst.
Yeah, otherwise I'd hang out with you guys all night, but my wife said I got a half hour. So.
All right, well, we don't want to piss off Miss Dunleavy. We want her to like us, so we'll definitely get you on your way. But we got to ask a couple hard questions, and I started off with just a big hammer, pow, right up front. All this video of Daniel Jones at a concert, some fan, and I didn't think the fan was like wildly out of line. But again, if you're yelling at a guy down the street, you're going to cause a scene. The thing is, I don't really care what he does, right, in his spare time, right? Is he going to be ready, Ryan? Is he going to be ready for the season? Like, what's the vibe in the building?
The vibe in the building is optimism, but you really don't know. Like, there's no reason to be pessimistic right now. There's no reason to say, like, oh, God, he's not going to make it. Like, he works hard. It's literally the one positive you could say about Daniel Jones that no one could question is that he works hard. So he's going to do whatever it can to get ready. The timing of it, unless there's a setback, the timing of it puts him on pace for the start of training camp, just how most quarterbacks heal. He doesn't have to take hits in training camp. He can just stand in the pocket in a red jersey. So I think the vibe is optimism. Now you've started to hear, as Joe Shane has sung nothing but optimism, you've started to hear other people say, I don't know if it's quite as rosy as he makes it out to be. It doesn't have to be as rosy as he makes it out to be. He doesn't have to do anything really until the first training camp practice. Who cares if he's part of OTAs or mini camp or whatnot? I think right now, push comes to shove, I'd say he's ready within the first week of training camp, if not day one.
Wow. Okay. So that would lead me then to this other wild conspiracy theory. And by the way, maybe this is true. Maybe there's some validity to it, and I'm just old school and don't think that way. But people are now the new, because this guy's polarizing as can be in this market, right? The new rumble is he's never going to play it down, because if he gets hurt, he's got he's got the accelerator in his contract for injury.
The Russell Wilson plan is the new.
Yeah. What does that look like? Is there any truth to that? Like, what's the scoop on your side of the fence?
I can't rule it out. I mean, I don't know that there's a scoop on that. I don't know anything about it. I've seen the speculation. I've thought, wow, that's interesting. no one would be talking about it if the Broncos didn't try to do it to Russell Wilson last year and make it top of the mind to everybody, where you bench a guy not based on performance, but because you're scared he's going to get hurt. I can't. This is just me talking. No inside information.
Yeah.
I can't see John Mara doing that to somebody. It's borderline unethical. Like it's if it's within the rules, it's still slimy. And I can't see the Giants saying to him, we're going to bury you as the third string quarterback because we don't want you to get hurt. Because who gave you this contract? We gave you this contract. I mean, we're the ones who thought you were worth it 6 games ago. And now we're going to bury you on the bench because we made such a terrible investment. I mean, if that's the case, if Joe Shane and Brian Dable want to bury himself on the bench, then John Mara needs to look at Joe Shane and Brian Dable.
Well, Sean, you and I have been getting a good laugh, over the last 2 weeks because, Ryan, I can't, and I'll let Sean jump in too. I can't think for the life of me why anybody would think Drew Lock is a good quarterback. I don't usually say, I'm not the guy usually to be like, that guy's terrible, but that guy's terrible. I don't know what John Elway was thinking. Is there truth to the fact that he was, they spoke to him in the way of, hey, you could start? Is that real?
I think it's, as usual with these things, somewhere in between. Like, do I think that it was painted the way John Schneider painted it as like the Giants told him he can go there and win the starting job? No, I don't think so. But John Schneider has no reason to lie. So he didn't make that up. That wasn't like a report through sources secondhand. This was the GM of the Seahawks, one of the more respected GMs in the league, saying this on the record to media. So something probably got lost in translation. There was probably a message of hey, Drew, look, if Daniel's not ready, you're going to be the starting quarterback. How many people can tell you right now that you have a chance to start because their starting quarterback is injured and there's no definite timeline as to when he can come back? There's not many jobs like that open right now. So he has a better chance to start with the Giants than he does with most of the other teams involved with him, just by sheer, there's nobody. He's ahead of Tommy DeVito. They didn't draft anybody yet. And Daniel Jones, we don't know when he's going to play. And even if he does play, he gets injured for 3 or 4 games every year. So you're going to get your chance to play here. So whether they told him there would be an open competition, I'd be a little surprised. But whether they told him your odds of getting in the games here are pretty good, that would not surprise me.
Do you think, Ryan, based on that, kind of piggybacking off of that, do you think based on what they did in free agency with Locke, that signs are pointing that they're going to draft to a quarterback, or with the lack of what they've done at receiver in free agency, that signs are pointing to a wide receiver? What's kind of your feeling there?
I never thought they would draft an offensive lineman. I know there are people that bang the table for we got to fix the offensive line. I never thought they would do that. It's become very clear it's wide receiver or quarterback at this point. This is going to be a crazy thing to say. The more sources I ask, the more people believe the Giants are going to draft a quarterback. That said, they all think that to do that, they're going to have to trade up probably to 3 or 4. So now you have another half of the equation, which are those teams going to want to trade down? And if those teams want to trade down, are they going to want to trade down with the Giants? So I think, to answer your question, I think they'll end up with a receiver because I don't think there will be a quarterback there at 6. That doesn't mean they don't want a quarterback. I think they want a quarterback. I think they'll end up with a receiver. 1B. That's no Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze are no consolation prizes. Not for a team that hasn't had an 800-yard receiver in 5 years. So I think that would be a welcome addition. Let's put it this way, guys. If you're the Cardinals, for instance, right? What do you want to do? And I don't know that there's a right decision. You guys tell me. You're the Cardinals. You get 2 phone calls. The Giants want to trade up to 6, trade up from 6. And the Vikings want to trade up from 11. The Vikings are obviously giving you a lot more because you have to drop down to 11. So you're getting a future first-round pick probably out of the Vikings. The Giants, you're probably not getting that, but you only have to drop down to 6, and you get Neighbors or Harrison at 6. So, do you want, if you're the Cardinals, do you want the better player and less return in your trade, or do you want a more draft capital in your trade? But if you drop down to 11, you're not getting Odunze, Neighbors, or Harrison. So what do you want to do if you're the Cardinals?
You know what's interesting about that? The key in I'm listening to you ask that question. The first thing that jumps out is, where do you value JJ McCarthy at? He almost seems like the one that tips the scale either way. Because if you don't,
well, I mean, yeah, both the Vikings and the Giants, if you're trading up to 4, it would be for JJ McCarthy. So
yeah,
what do the Cardinals? Yeah, what do the Cardinals want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, because because if you look at the Giants, you got Locke, you got Jones, got DeVito. The Vikings don't have a quarterback, right? Like they don't have a car. So they may be like, I just need a quarterback. I need one of those guys. And if this is all smoke, and Chris, jump in here. If it's all smoke, JJ could go 10, 11, and they could have got him anyway. Like, I mean, Chris, do we think
strongly do not feel that it is smoke. I strongly feel that if one of the quarterbacks, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or JJ McCarthy gets to 6, that he'll be gone. So if the Vikings want to make a move, they got to make a move.
Chris, where you think they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4?
If the Cardinals make a trade, I think they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if the Cardinals will make a trade, but if they do, I think they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Go ahead, Chris. Jump in. I know you've been looking at this for a while.
No. I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, it's really going to be dependent on the Cardinals whether they value that 6th spot and the Giants to move up to that 3rd spot and maybe make the move McCarthy. But once again, I am looking at the free agency. They haven't done really much with receiver, and I know it goes deep in the class. So maybe then you are looking at a receiver in the 2nd round. But I'm with Ryan. It's coming down to quarterback, receiver. I mean, obviously, but it's a lot of smoke lately. That's for sure. But I had a question for Ryan, an Evan Neal question, if I could jump in. Ryan, there was a report that came out the past few days that it looks like Evan Neal will get some work at guard. My concern with Evan Neal is now balancing work from tackle and guard in training camp moving into preseason. And a lot of people had said in the reports, well, if it doesn't work out, they're going to have a short leash and they're going to pull him. That's great, but how much work is he going to be getting at guard during this process?
Totally
That's the
agree.
concern.
I totally agree. I'm against that. Like the Jordan, I think that was Jordan Runyon who reported that. I like everything. There's layers, right? I like the idea of putting him at left guard because that's the side he's more comfortable on.
Correct.
He's never going to play left tackle here. So like, I like the idea of putting him at left guard because the way guys always say it is pardon my French here, fellas, but the way offensive linemen always say it is playing on the right side instead of the left when you're used to it is like trying to wipe your butt with a different hand. That's how offensive linemen always explain it to you. So let him wipe his butt with the correct hand, basically, and put him back on the left side. I like it. If you're going to move him to right guard, that makes no sense to me because he couldn't play right tackle, so he doesn't want to play guard. He said he came out of the womb a tackle when I asked him about playing guard during the season. So he's vehemently doesn't want to do it. So you're going to have a guy who already, I don't know if he has an attitude problem, but he's already uncomfortable. He's already, now you're going to ask him to do something he doesn't want to do. Like, I don't love that. You could sell it to him, I think, as we're putting you back on the left side, right guard. I don't know. To answer your question, what I would do is I would play him at right tackle in training camp, and I'd move Illuminor, who has some guard flexibility. I'd let him move around between guard and tackle. He's a veteran. He knows how to do it. I'd let him move around, and I'd let Evan Neal basically decide. Okay, like basically Evan Neal and Josh Azudu or something. Like one of those guys is starting. And if Neal looks good at right tackle, then Illuminor plays guard. And if Neal looks like terrible at tackle, then Illuminor plays tackle and Josh Azudu or Justin Pugh or whoever on the team plays guard. That's what I would do. I would not mess with Neal. I would actually let him play tackle. And if he loses the job, then he goes to guard and he can work his way back into trying to be a starting guard late in training camp afterwards. I would not do a every day or every week rotation with Evan Neal. I would let him focus on one spot.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
And Ryan, my last comment, and for you guys too, I'm drawing a parallel here with Evan Neal with DJ Fluker, both drafted in the 1st round. Evan Neal, 6'7", 340. Fluker, 6'5", 340. 2013 draft, Fluker drafted number 11. 2 years later, 2015, gets moved to guard. I'm seeing this same pattern or process, both in even the scouting reports, slow feet, balance, same type of reports you're hearing, and it's eerily similar. Where I think eventually we may see Neal at guard.
I've never heard the Fluker one. He obviously played for the Giants for a year before I started covering them, so I don't know him. But I've never heard the Fluker comparison. The comparisons people make all the time, obviously, are Eric Flowers, because the Giants were resistant to do it, and then Washington and Jacksonville moved him to guard, and he salvaged something of his career by playing guard. And then everybody's favorite after Eli Manning pick, Robert Gallery, was a bust at tackle for the Raiders, and he actually ended up salvaging something out of his career at guard. But what's funny is, I'll take your word for it, Chris, that Fluker was able to do it pretty decently. Flowers did it, half decently. Gallery did it decently. We know those guys because they did it decently. I bet you there's a dozen guys that tried to do it that were just as terrible at guard as they were at tackle. We just don't remember their names.
Yeah, it drew me to the similarities because of the frame. They both have that big, similar tackle type frame. And that was always the question with Neal, putting him at guard. Could he handle guard with that type of frame? But we'll see.
I hope so. You know what I mean? Like you just sit there and you're like, man, this guy's got to contribute somewhere. But it is eye-opening that they put 4 offensive linemen in the pipe already. That's, I think, encouraging. They went out and signed 4 guys saying, I'm not going to wait for a draft pick, or maybe I won't even have draft picks available if I have to go get Drake May. So I'm going to load up. This is the first time I can remember ever, picking off, what did we do? 4. We picked up 4 of the top 15 linemen available, and we picked up 2 of the top 4. I mean, Runyon and Illuminor were both rated at the top for free agency linemen next to, from Miami? Hunt. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a statement, Chris, like, hey, we're packing these guys in because we need to make a difference, right?
I liked what they did. I was to me, I was like, you have to go out, and I know it didn't work with Nate Solder, but to me, you have to veteran offensive linemen, enough of trying to develop guys. And this is no knock at these guys, but they've had different coaches. There's a new position coach every year, a new head coach every 2 years. The scouting department has changed, but enough. We've seen it. Didn't work with Evan Neal for 2 years so far. Didn't work with Matt Peart. Didn't work with Josh Azudu for 2 years. Like, the Giants have not been good at developing young offensive linemen. So let's try to figure it out with some veteran offensive linemen for now.
I just wrote this down too. Sorry, Sean, real quick. I just wrote this down as you were saying it. The Giants have had no patience after they bring in a free agent guy, because look at Remmers gave him 2 years gone, Zeitler gone, Feliciano gone.
Zeitler's still a good player. Zeitler's like the one thing they did right, and they let him go.
Yep, all these guys went on. I mean, listen, I'm no huge Feliciano fan, but he had a nice year, right? Correct. Zeitler had a good year. Remmers had an okay year, but like these guys that they brought in and signed, they went off, to your point, Ryan, they had decent careers somewhere else. So we just don't have a lot of patience for the free agents because we're always going younger, better. Yeah. And younger.
I don't think on the offensive line, I don't think younger is better.
Go ahead, Shawnee.
To that point, Ryan, and I know we're focusing on the line here a lot, but I'm pretty excited about the Brasillo hire. And I think he can develop some of these younger guys. Have you gotten a sense, what he's like, or how people are feeling about it, or anybody in the building, or the players, or anything? He's got a good track record from what I've seen. He comes from a good background, Scarnecchia. So I just feel like that could make a huge difference, even in Evan Neal's case. Are you getting any kind of sense about Brasillo at all?
I really don't have much of a sense for him. I know Illuminor and Illuminor was raving about him when, that's basically the reason he wanted to come here. And I've never seen a free agent more excited to come to the Giants than he is on his Twitter account. But one of the reasons he wanted to come here was the comfort, the familiarity with Brasillo. I hear he's a player's guy. That is going to matter. What really matters is if you're a good offensive line coach. I mean, obviously he's got the pedigree, comes through having worked with Dante Scarnecchia, etc. I know when I was covering Rutgers 7 years ago, the Rutgers coach wanted to hire him as his offensive line coach. So like his name's been on my radar for a long time, but is he going to be able to get the most out of these guys? I really don't know. I think offensive line coach is one of the most important positions on your staff. And I just don't know. I don't know if he'll be able to get, if he's going to be able to drag the most out of these guys. I think they're going to like him. That's the sense I get. They're going to like him. He's going to be able to relate to them, but can he get them to perform at the high level? You won't really know that till the game starts.
Love it. How about what's the dumbest thing you've heard so far in this offseason? Because it just seems everybody is dropping. And so me and Sean laugh about this 3 times a week. We go, oh, we got another one.
The Giants are going to cut Daniel Jones. Now, the Giants are waiting till after June 1st to cut Daniel Jones. Is the dumbest thing I've heard the dumbest thing I've heard this season. That is, without a doubt, that he's not going to be on the team this year is the dumbest thing. And that's just people who don't know what the salary cap is, because he would cost you more not to be on the team than he would to be on the team. So that probably is the dumbest thing. And then obviously, obviously, like 90% of my Twitter account is devoted to running backs and the running back market, and people still acting like, you know what else I've heard that's really dumb is Saquon didn't want to be a Giant for life because he signed with the Eagles. That's a popular one that's out there that is so dumb. Like, he begged the Giants to sign him for life, literally begged them to sign the Giants for life. And they didn't give him the offer. He went to the free market and he ended up getting a deal for whatever, I think $26 million guaranteed. When you add it to the franchise tag from 2023 to 2025, he's making $36 million guaranteed. The Giants offered him $23 million guaranteed. So that's another third of the contract, basically. Who in their right mind isn't going to a competitor in their whatever world you live in? You work for PricewaterhouseCoopers, you're going one of the other major accounting for Ernst & Young for a raise of 33%. So the idea that he didn't want to be a Giant for life because he signed with the Eagles, like, he went to his hometown team and he got a lot of money and he's playing behind his best offensive line, and that just happens to be the Giants' biggest rival. So be it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's a good spot for him overall because, one, the offense won't run through Barkley. They've got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You know, they got a great offensive line. I'm not big into Hurts on his throwing ability, but he won't be the focal point of the offense where he is here. It's like it's Barkley's show and nothing else, you know. So,
the biggest difference is the offensive line, guys. I forget the stat now. I don't have it, but like 74% of his yards were after contact. He was the running back in the league, hit the most often at or behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to be He's going to think he's driving down like a 6-lane highway at 2 a.m. with the size holes he's going to get.
Yeah, really.
Something this big is going to look this big.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to have a good year. There's no doubt about it. He's going to have a good year. If he stays healthy, the guy's going to have a good year. Go ahead, Sean. You want to jump in?
Yeah, well, just kind of backtrack, and we mentioned Runyon earlier, but I think it's funny. Strahan used to be up on his dad. Now Runyon is here on the Giants. So his dad's now rooting for the Giants, right? Like, is that weird? Like, I know him and Strahan developed a good relationship as we went on, but that's a little weird, right? Your son's
so I called him. I called old man Runyon and asked him, because Junior was so good on the Zoom call with the media that I said, I got to call his dad. And I called his dad. His dad would not admit yet that he's rooting for the Giants. I'm rooting for my son.
That's right.
And for my son to do well, the 10 other guys on the team have to do well. So, like, in that regard, I'm pulling for the offense to do well. But it wasn't like I'm a Giants fan. He could not, the Eagle in him could not say that.
Of course.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, those were epic battles. I told the story just last week. So he lives in the next town over from me, right? He's in this enormous house, right? So we'd always go to the same ice cream shop when John Jr. was little. And John Jr. was little, he was still big, right?
Yeah.
He was still bigger than everyone else. And I remember him giving me looks. I'd come in with getting an ice cream for my kids. I'd have wearing the giant hat, and he'd give me one of these.
You're the guy he's talking about, because I said to him, I said, what's it like? I said, what's it like for you to to have your son sign with the Giants? And he said, that's a little bit overblown. Half my neighbors are Giants fans. That's what he said. So he was talking about you.
Probably. Yeah. We'd see him like 3-4 days a week. We'd see him in town.
There you go.
Again, he was a good guy. I'm excited for his son. I think he's going to have a good year. What type of player is he?
I think the Giants got a bargain, they very rarely do, right? The Giants are like the kings of overspenders in free agency. They're always at the top of the mark. Kenny Galladay, Solder, they're always overpaying these guys.
Golden Tate.
Yeah, and I thought, honestly, I liked Onwenu because of the guard tackle flexibility and the plan I described earlier with Evan Neal. But Onwenu got twice the money that John Runyon got. So I don't know that he's twice the player. So I think John Runyon is a really good fit for the Giants in terms of he's a leader. He's a guy that I loved his quote, like, it has to start with us. He said, like, 10 years. I said something like the Giants have been looking for the right combination for 10 years. He said something like that stops now. Like, he had the chippiness. I said to his dad, does he have your edge to him? He said, it's in there. It doesn't always, it comes and goes, but it's in there. Giants need an edgy guy like that. You know who was like that? Nick Gates. And Nick Runyon's a better player than Nick Gates, but you cannot tell me that last year's team did not mix Nick Gates's edginess.
Yeah, Chris, right? We did the stream from his camp.
Sure, he was great. And he had just left.
Yeah,
he had just left a few days earlier. He was already gone.
He said to us, he's like, he wanted to be a Giant. Shane wouldn't let him play center. So, he left. But we spent the whole day with him doing a live stream from his camp. Really good guy. And, he said it. He's like, look, I'm a tough player. I play gritty as I can possibly play, but I prefer to play center. Yep. And sometimes you win that battle. He lost that battle.
Ryan, I know we have a couple minutes. The second wave of free agency is coming up this week. You look at Nick McLeod as the other side on the other side of the corner. I mean, there's a ton of value deals probably at the cornerback position. Anything Giant fans can expect this week to happen, maybe in free agency at the cornerback spot?
Good question. I had heard a couple safety names that they were looking at. I had heard, I think I tweeted out, I had heard they were in with Cam Curl. I had heard they showed some interest in Julian Blackman, who signed, I think, today with somebody, right? Didn't he sign today with somebody at safety? I have not heard much at corner. What I expect them to do is they'll sign somebody probably to a 1-year deal, or Julian Blackman visited the Bills today. They'll sign somebody to a 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal that's really a 1-year deal with a little guarantees. Somebody in the vein of Fabian Moreau, not Fabian Moreau, who's a free agent, but somebody in that vein who's been a 6-year starter, who's in his late 20s, who could have something left in the tank. I don't think it'll be a Dory Jackson. Pick the guy, but somebody I think in the $3-ish million range. But guys, don't forget they also have to. We don't know if they did this yet. They need to restructure Andrew Thomas's contract because they're running really low on cap space. So I think they need a starting caliber corner, and you can, like you said, Chris, you can get that guy. There's some bargains to be had on the free agent market. You can get that guy for $3-ish million a year.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list. There's still a ton of guys out there that
and then Jackson's not coming back.
I don't think they'll. And now that they've passed on guys, I don't think they'll get a starting safety. I think they'll probably get a backup safety and roll with what they got with Belton, Pinnock, and Jalen Mills, and they
have Owens too, right? Ryan Javarius Owens.
Yeah, he didn't play a snap though last year. Like, I think he might be in the Gary Brightwell vein of he's more a special teams guy than he is. I think than he is a real threat to play at safety.
And Ryan, is Jackson? I mean, there's no shot for Dory Jackson to come back. He's just too expensive.
I mean, the longer he's out there, the lower his price gets. I don't think so. I think that marriage has reached its conclusion. I don't think that there's much interest from either side in okay. But but
Play
again,
wise or money wise?
But if he's a free agent and they need a guy and he needs a team, could he be the guy? Sure, but I don't think his price is in their ballpark right now, and I don't think they thought he played as well as he thinks he played last year.
Interesting, because they're really gonna need that other corner without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Mean,
or draft one. Got to draft one in the second round.
Wait, it's so funny, right? Everybody says that you got to draft one in the second round. Well, first of all, if you trade up for a quarterback, you're not going to have a second round pick.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
And if you pick a wide receiver in the first round, so now everybody's like, oh, well, we got to draft a corner in the second round. We got to draft a safety in the second round. We got to draft a running back in the second round. We got to draft a tight end in the second round. We got to draft you only have one second round pick left.
Right.
All right. Well, here's the last question. Then it'll piggyback right off of what you just said. All right. So
who's scoring touchdowns for this team, guys? I went through the list.
That's where I was going.
Go ahead.
No, I was good. We're on the same wavelength because I was literally going to say is we know no one's drafting a running back in the second round. We know no one's drafting a safety with us in the second round if they have that pick. The only thing that jumped out at me is what is Waller doing? Because if Waller's gone, Bellinger moves into the pass catching side of it. They just signed 2 tight ends to block.
You should
what does that tell you?
You should expect Waller's going to retire. You should treat it as a pleasant surprise if he returns because all signs are pointing that way. So the Giants are certainly acting like he's not going to be back. And if he comes back, well, then great. We got a number 1 caliber weapon. Well, what we thought was a number 1 caliber weapon back. So, but they're certainly operating as if he's not coming back. So if he's not back and he has something like, I want to say he has something like, I did the math on this the other day. He has something like 25 career touchdowns and Saquon had like 45 career touchdowns. So between them, they had like 70 career touchdowns. And then if they're both gone, you have Darius Slayton has like 19, I think. Give or take on all these numbers. Darius Slayton has like 19. Devin Singletary has like 24. Isaiah McKenzie has 15. And then Bellinger has 3. And Brightwell has 1, and Hyatt has 0. Wandale has 3. You're talking about a bunch of guys who have 3 career touchdowns after Isaiah McKenzie is 3rd. Who is scoring touchdowns for this team? Really, I don't know. I don't know. Like as big as corner and safety are, I think who is scoring touchdowns at whatever position you want to choose is a big deal.
Yeah, it sounds like it's got to be an offensive heavy draft.
Yeah,
early on, like it really has to be, right?
Sean, it could be quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback, first 2 picks.
Yeah, easily.
But
And then
the only thing is the capital, Sean. If you get the quarterback, as Ryan was saying, you might not have that pick. Was it pick 47?
That's why I thought it was interesting. Look, you do the Brian Burns trade every day of the week. But it was interesting that they gave up one of their 2 second-round picks because you would have thought that they needed that if they were looking to move up to 3 or 4.
you got that future pick you can use. I mean, there's talk you go wide receiver at 6. You can use the second round, a future one, to move up late in the first round and get that quarterback.
Now I'm giving up future ones, and I don't know if these guys are going to be here next year and the next guys are going to come in. They're not going to have a first-round pick. I'm very reluctant to give up any future ones unless I'm in the first year of my regime. But
I would have went, you know what, Ryan? I'll leave you with this. They should have went out and paid Tannehill. Then they would have at least had someone to throw touchdowns to Rome or Neighbors, because it ain't gonna be Drew Lock, Shawnee. He sucks.
Didn't Daniel Jones make an awesome one-handed catch once on a pass from
the receiver?
Yeah.
Maybe he's playing wideout and Drew Lock's the quarterback.
He'll be the Giants' Taysom Hill.
Hey, let me ask you guys, 3 diehard fans. Let me ask you guys something. I was pitching around with my staff yesterday. Who's the face of the Giants now? We can all agree it was Saquon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is an easy question though.
Who?
It's Dexter Lawrence.
That's like the face of the Giants is Dexter Lawrence.
At this point, I agree with that.
I'm not saying I want it to be.
He's the best player. Is
Yeah.
he the face of the Giants?
Yeah, because he's good on interviews. He's funny. He smiles all the time. Aaron Donald retires. He's the number one player in his position. Like, who else? Where else would you go? The offense has got such a.
That's why it's a good question.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it could be Tibbs or Burns too at some
Yeah,
point,
But
right?
Tibbs is a controversial guy. He says dumb things that people don't go with. Everything Dexter
Thibodeau
Lawrence
has a
does is
certain
good.
charisma to him. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was the high draft pick. He's got the big smile. Like
Yeah.
my argument was it's probably Thibodeau. Dexter Lawrence is undoubtedly the best player on the team.
Yeah.
And Andrew Thomas is the second best player on the team. I just
Yeah.
don't know. Like you three are diehards. If I picked somebody who was a season ticket holder, so not like not Joe Casual, a season ticket holder,
Which is
and
us.
I held them up a picture of Dexter
Yeah, which is
Lawrence.
us, by the way. We're both season.
Well, I'm saying you guys are diehards. I'm saying just regular season
Regular.
ticket holder.
Okay.
Like if you and I held up a picture of Dexter Lawrence without the number 97, like in a suit. Are people going to know Dexter Lawrence's face? I don't know about that.
Well, it's hard to, Ryan, because the defensive players are hard to pick out. Plus the helmet. So unless that goes along,
Yeah,
with
but
the deal.
everybody knew Saquon. Everybody knew
on that.
Saquon.
He gets the
NFL
ball.
script
He gets the ball
commercial,
30 times.
right?
Maybe that's part of it.
Right? They put him on that NFL script commercial. Dexter.
And we're not even talking about
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. Like the
Not-
the
No.
$140 million quarterback is not even an option in this question.
Yeah, like if they went and
Yeah.
drafted Brock Bowers, he'd instantly become the face of the offense. He'd be like Shockey, but the good guy Shockey, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm driving down the turnpike August 3rd.
Yep.
Who's on the Giants billboard?
Dexter Lawrence.
Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, probably going to be Dexter.
Now, I'm only saying that because the guy is good with kids. He's good with the media. Everybody likes him. He's smiling all
got
the
a great
time.
smile. Always got
Yeah,
that smile.
He's got the sack dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I think from a marketing perspective, because you just said the billboard, right?
Yeah.
The reason why now it's got cachet is there's no more Aaron Donald. Donald's gone. He's now literally the best player in the NFL. When is the last time? You could ask your staff this. When is the last time the New York Giants had the best player at a position? I can't tell you. I remember.
Well, it's either Saquon's rookie year, 2018. He might have been the best running back.
Okay.
Or
You see, you're thinking.
A short
You're going
time
back.
with Odell. A very short time
yeah,
with Odell.
Odell. Odell was the best receiver. Odell.
Yeah.
And then before that, as much as everybody loved Tuck and OC and Eli and Roll, all those guys, but before Odell, it was Strahan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Great.
that's the only reason why I'm saying the billboard that you're going down Route 3.
Okay, I mean that's a fair answer.
Because the Giants now could say this. We've got the best player in the game. And when
At
you don't
that
have
position.
any, yeah,
The position.
at that position.
At the position.
And when
He's
you
not
don't
the
have
best
any,
he's not the best pass rusher. He can't
No.
the best you got Garrett and Watt and all those guys. He's the best defensive tackle in the game.
yeah. So I think that kind of gives them
It's
cachet.
kind of a niche guy's football.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, when I say to my neighbor who has a Giants hat but doesn't really watch the games, like if I said to him, Dexter Lawrence is the Giants' best player, he'd be like, "Oh, how many sacks did he have?" I'd be like, 4.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it.
Yep.
Well, if that's the case, you've just
You
made
got to
me more
understand
depressed.
the nuance of like he gets a lot of pressures and he caves in the
That's right.
pocket, and like
I think to Sean's point, you want it to be Tibbs. It's just not Tibbs.
Mhm.
no.
From a marketing thing, it may end up being Burns because he's got the whole Spider-Man thing and he's got the cool little sack dance too. And I mean, you put that on the billboard, he's in the Spider-Man position.
And
right?
he's gonna have an enormous amount of pressure on him when he's making $30 million a year.
Yeah.
An enormous amount of pressure on him.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested. He better get off to a good start.
Now, the other wild card would be if Banks has a shutdown crazy year. I guess maybe he could have a little of that. I don't know.
A corner, I could think maybe two times in my 40 years have I thought of a corner as a
like Darrell Revis
Darrell Revis and Deion Sanders on the Falcons are like the two guys I could think of who were like the face of their teams.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, again, wild card Okereke, but I know what you're saying. Like, there is no offensive player that has the cachet. You bring in McCarthy, yeah. You bring in, I don't know the personality of Harrison. He seems quiet, so he might not be the guy. But Neighbors and Odunze both seem like they're more of a personality.
Odunze is 1 in a million, man. This guy is, I would love to cover that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Singletary, like I'm just praying he can rush for 500 yards.
Hey, I've been told running backs are a dime a dozen, guys. So I've been fighting that battle for 2 years. So,
well, look, thanks for hanging out with us. I know we went a little bit past what you said. I don't want Mrs. Dunleavy to get mad at us. So go be a dad. We'll hit you up before camp comes around. We'll get some more insight on what we talked about, and we'll have this conversation about who's on the billboard before camp starts.
Right on Route 3.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Keep up the great work.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, Ryan.
You too. Thank you.
The great Ryan Dunleavy, folks. He's got a great point. Like, the defense is really coming together, right? First you hit the grand slam with Okereke. You draft Banks, right? You get a gift from God with Pinnock. You never saw that coming, right? And then you got Tibbs, and you're waiting. You see it, right? The potential, and it's flashing in front of you. You bring in Burns, right? And all of a sudden, who knew McFadden could double the amount of tackles he had from last year, right? Defense is coming around, Sean.
Yeah.
What are the Giants offense really going to do? His point is this.
Yeah.
How do you score touchdowns? We've already had years with no touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you got to stack up that defense, make sure they're holding teams and not letting them score. But
yeah, well, let's take the 2000 Ravens.
Yeah. I mean, again, you got to go offense heavy in the draft. You really got to go majority offense. Like, there's no other way, because you beefed up the O-line in free agency. They upgraded in the O-line in free agency, at least on paper, right? So you got to get some skill positions. I think Wandale's going to go off next year. I think he's going to be a solid number 2, like a strong number 2, maybe a 1A, depending who they get, right? So those are 2 guys. They can get Hyatt going and figure out how to get him more involved and utilize him in the right way, that speed. But yeah, they gotta get at least 2 receivers. I think they got to take in the draft, but I'm not the GM.
Chris, call me crazy. No, not literally, but let's just say the Giants are at 6, and Minnesota comes up, and and let's say 1, 2, 3, and 4 goes Caleb Williams, May, Daniels, McCarthy. Let's say they're all gone, right? And then, of course, you get, I'm assuming Neighbors would be the guy, right? If Harrison still goes at 5?
Or Odunze, one of them.
Or, well, I mean, Neighbors is the more desired player, is he not? I mean, it feels like but either way, let's just say the Giants have a receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say for this conversation, the Giants draft Neighbors. Okay. So we're everybody's stoked, right? Would it be absolutely insane to think, because we've already talked about it? Okay. So maybe these there's 3 receivers right there on the board, right? What if the Giants moved back to 11, or maybe they moved back to, who's right after the Giants? So it's Patriots, Arizona. Who's 7 right now? 7 and 8. Because my point is going to be, and we can look it up, is what if the Giants move back to like 7 or 8, still wind up with, let's say, a Dunze, right?
Right.
And then come back into the first later on and take Bowers. Because Bowers may go like 20.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be Tennessee. Tennessee at 7, Atlanta 8.
Like, could we see that even remotely being possible? Like, go get Neighbors, or I'm a Rome guy. but go get Rome. But you
Mhm.
pick up the extra pick, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to move from 6 to 8 or 6 to 9. You still get Rome.
I'm for
And
that.
then you package up the pick that you moved back for
Yep.
with the second and come back in and take Bowers at 20.
Bowers. Oh, they'll be gone. Do you think he'd be gone?
I don't see him
I don't
going. I don't see him going under 15.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think at that point you may be. Maybe they. Yeah, I guess hopefully we'd know by that point with Waller.
There's only been like 1 or 2 tight ends that have ever gone that high.
Yeah, I still feel like they're going to take a receiver. I know there's so much spoke about quarterback, but
I'm saying both.
Yeah,
I'm saying you miss out on the quarterback, take the wide receiver, and then come back in for Bowers. Now I've got 2 pass catching threats.
Yeah, unless you take a guard. Well, you're not going to take a guard at that.
No,
spot. I think you're going to take the best available. If you're going to move back that far, or not that. What number are you saying? Move back to?
So if they move back from 6 to 8, 6 to 9,
get the receiver
right?
there.
You're not going to just swap picks. You're going to pick up an extra pick somewhere.
Right.
Maybe a 4, right? So a 3. So now I pick up, I'm going to say out of the 3, I'm picking up Rome. I'm saying Harrison, Neighbors, and you get, right? So now I'm done with that round. I take the second, pick number 47, and whatever the other pick is that I just swapped.
Yep.
And come back into the first.
Okay.
And traded with Seattle or who would be
in the 20s. You're saying like maybe like a Buffalo, Detroit, Baltimore, 28, 29, 30.
I mean, it would look really crazy if we traded with Buffalo. It would look like insider trading. So I don't think that's going to happen. But
well, you get my point. The numbers. If you're like 25 to 32.
Come back in and see if we could actually do, because no, I don't even play Madden, Jay. I'm just saying that they need 2 pass catchers because there's no one catching any touchdowns. Would it be just let's go for it and come back in and take Rome and Bowers? Because Bowers is going to go at least 15 plus because he's a tight end.
I think if you're going to come back in the late in the first, you're going to take the best guy available. That's my opinion. You're going to who's the best guy on the board at that point. Right.
I think if you're going to do that, you got to come in and take a quarterback. But
there'd be nobody left to take in the first round. You're going to take Rattler in the first round?
Less Penix were to fall.
Yeah, Penix falls.
So now I've got 2 injured quarterbacks on the roster.
I know. But he cleared all his medicals, and from all reports, his knee that was injured is stronger than it was before he got injured. But I get the concern. But I don't think you can trade back in and take 2 weapons, because you can get another receiver in that 3rd round who's going to be a stud as well. Like this wide receiver class,
like Rice or
Pierce Hall or any of those guys you can get there. So I mean I hear you and I get it what it'd be like, but then who's throwing them the ball? Like then
I know, but that
can say you take Rattler in the 3rd if you do that. That's what you're left with, right? Like
just keep in mind, quarterbacks in the 3rd and 4th round do not make it in the NFL at all.
Right.
Like the percentage is so small. Like we can go round and round and everybody can prove that we're wrong. There was this guy in 1996. Look, like the guys who make it in the 3rd and the 4th round are linebackers and tight ends and linemen, right? Like those really special players, round 1, round 2. The question is, do you want 2 pass catching threats? If you lose, again, this is all caveat. If you lose out on the top 4 quarterbacks, how about this? I'm proposing it to you, Sean. You lose out on the top 4 QBs. What are you doing with your 1st and 2nd round pick?
I'm taking receiver at 6, and then I'm gonna either go quarterback in the 2nd, or I'm gonna trade back up and get a Penix late in the 1st round.
Okay, Chris, same thing. You lose out on the 4. What are you going to do?
I'm going to take the receiver. Going to take the receiver first, and then I'm just going to see where these chips fall, and maybe, like Sean said, move back. If a Penix is sitting there, I move back in the 1st round and get him.
Damn, I can't. I've been on the Penix train the whole time up until the point where I was like, we just can't have 2 guys like that. I mean, listen, when you blow out 2 ACLs, there's a sign there that there's something genetically wrong with his knees.
But he's had 2 years without being injured.
Yeah.
This year you got Jones hopefully coming back and Locke. you don't have to throw him out there right away. He can.
Right.
He
You
can,
say
he can
Locke.
sit.
We can't
Right.
talk about. We can't
Well,
talk about Locke. He's
hopefully,
just,
Jones is healthy. But you got the whole year to just let him sit and learn, and then make the decision next year if it's time. So I think you're going on 3 years of him not being injury free.
yeah, Big Blue. I'm putting this comment up here because we are on the same page. Penix is a beast. What people forget is before he injured his knee, he's slated in Indiana. He was very, he was way more mobile than he is now with that killer arm he has. He played with McFadden. Those two would be instant friends again. They were roommates. But I'm with Big Blue and the scream face. Like, do you really roll the dice on a dude with 2 ACLs, a separated shoulder, and a major concussion? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. If he's there in the third, okay, but he's not lasting that long.
Let's say he falls to the second, you give up that 47, and you move up in the second, and he's there, right at the top.
I don't want him.
All right.
I can't lose a second round pick on a dude that's got a long list of injuries because you're literally rolling the dice twice on yourself. Then you're already rolling it because it's a crazy draft. Who knows who's going to do what?
I think you're rolling the dice on all these quarterbacks. I mean, there's not
one of them has 2 ACLs, a separated shoulder, and a major concussion. Not one of them.
I think he's going to fall because of that. But again, his pro day will be a big thing too, which is coming out, I think, next week. But again, from all reports, his medical is full clear medicals, and they said his knee is stronger than before he got injured.
And the Giants are very conservative.
It doesn't scare me. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it concerns me. But man, if you're talking late first round, and if it wasn't for the injuries, he might be quarterback 2 in this draft easily.
Kelly's got a point too. He does. You do see, thanks, Kelly. You do see him struggle. He can wing it, but he's got to learn to read defenses. He got exposed in that championship game trying to throw that ball, at the hashes. He got exposed, man. He could not do it. So again, but the raw tools are there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw someone in the comments too. Joker joking. No, can't listen. I know people love to hate on Neil right now, but I've said this. I'll keep saying it. Is that Bobby Johnson didn't develop one single O lineman in the 2 years he was there. So I refuse to hit on Neil right now,
right?
Because again, and he played, as we found out, as Pew said on this show, he had a really bad ankle injury last year that a lot of people didn't know about. So give him a real good coach, see what he does. I'm not giving up on this yet. And even if he doesn't, Illuminor, if you see some of his highlights and what he's done, you put him at right tackle then.
Yeah.
I mean, easy enough, right? So you can't not draft a guy because you're worried about his blind side. He can play or he can't play. Bottom line. So
our Milan fan from San Diego here, let me pop this up on here. Like he's already in on JJ that he's young and can be developed. I agree with that. JJ gets a lot of backlash, for, not whipping the ball around the field like the rest of these guys. And what people don't realize, he's a full year younger than everybody getting drafted. He just turned 21. 2, he's a very pro-ready quarterback. They didn't ask him to throw the ball 25 times a game. He had a great line and a great running back. I think JJ is good for New York. He's calm, easygoing guy. He's got a lot of upside. He reminds me of someone that can be developed on the Brady trail where they come in really slow with low expectations. Of course, Brady was not a first round pick, so that's probably a bad example. But, someone that can be developed with a high ceiling. I like JJ. I don't know if you get a shot at him unless you move up. And if you are moving up, do you move up and just take JJ, or do you keep going and get May? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just know that to Ryan's point, and we thank Ryan Dunleavy for hanging out with us. He always, spends a bunch of time with us. Is what the heck how do you score touchdowns? The biggest thing I saw this week about Hyatt, and everybody's like, we wasted Hyatt's rookie year. Hyatt didn't get a chance. Look, folks, you got to understand, during practice is their game. If they don't ball out in practice, They don't get snaps. They don't get targets. It's literally telling you he's not on the field because he's not doing something in practice they expect him to do. So he's still in. And listen, we're all about Hyatt. We love Hyatt. You know, Chris chats with his dad sometimes. He's a good guy. He's developing. He didn't run a massive route tree at what do you call it? Tennessee. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? He's got all the tools he needs. Like, this offseason is going to be great for him. I'm sure he's training his ass off, working on some development stuff. But we didn't waste him. He just didn't make that leap like they wanted him to. And Shawnee, the one thing I'd say about Wan'Dale is I almost feel bad for him because, again, without a real alpha number one, they lock down. I mean, he's not a big dude, and he's like, and he only takes so many hits. You need that number one alpha to take the pressure off of Wan'Dale too, because the poor dude can't do everything.
No, I agree, but that's me saying him to have a big year because I think they are going to get a wide receiver one. So, and he can scheme him open underneath and do the things you need to do. But you're right. I mean, they're gonna take him out.
Because he came back so early and looked so good. All you kept thinking is, man, this. Why weren't we throwing to this guy more often, right?
Yeah.
I just, I kind of feel bad if they don't have a number one, like he's kind of in that limbo, and making every play. So I can't see them not drafting a wide receiver. It's really hard to fathom.
Yeah. And again, they didn't do anything in free agency. They let Hodgins go. Like, they brought in McKenzie, but I think he's going to be more special teams than anything else, right? So everything, if you read the tea leaves, like, everything leans to them taking receiver at some point in the draft.
And you
go ahead, Chris.
No, finish, Sean. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, I can't see them taking a receiver somewhere in the draft, right? They got to know that they need receiver help. Like, there's just no way you look at this roster and be like, oh no, we're good at receiver. We're set. We don't need anybody.
And when you talk about points, it's all come back to this offensive line. As much as we rip on Jones and Tim and the other things, but the offensive line has been garbage for so long. It's the main problem. I mean, you go back to 2016 when the Giants made the playoffs. They were averaging like 18, 19 points a game. It was one on defense and key plays. So, I mean, you go back that far. This offensive line, it's all going to run through this offensive line. And the fact they bring in Jack Stoll and Manhurts, two blocking tight ends, gives you an indication what they really want to do. They probably want to hit the edges with the running game and even lean on a running game, which is weird with Saquon not here, maybe even a little bit more by committee. But it is odd that they didn't bring another pass catcher in just for insurance for Waller, that they brought in two blocking tight ends.
I would have to think that pushes Bellinger back into the pass catching role,
Sure.
And they got two blocking tight ends.
And Cager, I'm sorry, they got Cager back. So.
Cager,
But listen, we can say that. We know they're not a factor. You know what I mean? Like what is Cager going to catch on the year? 15 balls? Like, it's not. We're talking about the meat and potatoes of the offense, right? Bellinger evidently going, unless they drafted a tight end, which I don't see it. We did last night on Rush Hour. We did all the tight ends. There really is only one for, Bowers is going to go in the first round. The next guy is late third, right? Early fourth. So Bellinger going to move into that pass catching role of two tight end, two block. The biggest thing to me outside the wide receivers, they really don't have running back by committee right now that actually has any prowess, right? Like, nobody's afraid of those cats. Singletary's a nice back, but I mean, is he better than Breida? I don't know. I hope so.
Well, it's March, and they still have another wave of free agents. Things are going to die down with the market, and they're going to add somebody.
Yeah, because running back by committee would be cool if I had, three different guys. Well,
I know one of their 30 visits, I think they visited with a running back too. So they'll take a running back later on, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree.
Singletary is going to surprise some people. He had a real good year last year. I think he's definitely going to surprise some people this year. And again,
Singletary.
Yeah, I think he is. I watched a lot of his games last year, so he did some nice things on offense. And
Sean, am I right? More yards after contact. It was like top 10 or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was real good. And I think he averaged like four 4.7 yards a carry or something like that. So, and he wasn't even the starter to start the season. So imagine what he'd done if he was the starter for the entire season. So I think again, he's not going to be a Saquon or that explosion, but he'll do some things. And if you get another running back into the mix, you know, I think it's a nice combination. So I think he'll surprise some people, but they got to get weapons. They got to get other weapons without a doubt.
And we said this last week on the show, Sean, that, you know, people, you know, Saquon got a lot of hate for being different, which is crazy because when I think of all the backs between Gary Brown and Rashad Jennings and you know, I actually like Darkwa. I think Darkwa would have been a great change of pace back in a you know, earth, wind, and fire type of, you know what I mean? Like kind of backfield. Like right now, there's no dynamic of the fast, shifty guy, the between the tackles runner, and the pounder, right? Like we don't have that right now. Like the Giants just continually sign running backs that all are the same, right? You know, Freeman, you know, they brought in Gallman, like if you had Gallman and Darkwa and Singletary, you'd be like, you know what? You know, Gallman's going to pound it at you, right? And they need to put some effort into finding, like, I mean, the Eagles, like, they toss around these backs, like, every year. They come in with two backs, Bart Scott, or not Bart Scott,
Boston Scott.
Right. You know, the giant killer. Like we need an eagle killer. You know what I mean? Like we need a cowboy killer. Like they need to go find that running back.
Well, I think they that's funny. They in the Dillon. So I mean they got a plan. I think they have a plan. It seems like they have a plan. Whether they can execute it and get the players they want, but yeah, we got to get that guy.
Yeah, there's no identity, right? There's no identity to the offense. We're all waiting for something to show.
That's why I think that Shane's gonna have to make a bigger splash somewhere here. Like seriously. Yeah, I know. I said Bart Scott. I know. Like I'm like, what am I doing?
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like that Daboll is getting more of his influence. Again, from what I'm seeing, what the moves are doing in free agency, who they let go of, it seems like he's having more of influence of what he ran in Buffalo and less of that kind of hybrid of KC and Buffalo offense. Like if you really look closely at the moves they made, that's what it seems like to me. Like it's like, all right, I'm going to run the offense that I ran in Buffalo, not this like makeshift hybrid of KC Buffalo together. I don't know. That's what I see.
Yeah.
You really dive into the moves they've made, who they let go of, who they're bringing in. That's the impression I get.
It's interesting because I'm not a fan of having a ton like Wandell just totally shocked me coming back so early and playing so well, right? You could look at in Buffalo, they had the Cole Beasley thing, right? And then they had the McKenzie after that, right? But, you know, they had a very athletic, you know, tight end with Knox, who's I think he's still there. And then they drafted Dalton Kincaid, which was the best tight end in last year's draft pick. Like, I know what you're saying that they want to get closer to Buffalo than KC, but I just don't see it because you had Josh Allen. Like, so how do you build, Buffalo? Buffalo didn't win anything, and you don't have the quarterback that's lights out.
Well, I mean, Daboll was there doing those things, and I get you don't have a Josh Allen, but if Daboll's offense worked, and it's worked in multiple places, then you have to have the pieces that work in that offense. So maybe they surprise us and they use their currency and they draft up and they take a Drake May. That's the guy they've scouted the most. They've looked at him the most. So maybe the wild card, and I know it seems crazy, is what do the Patriots do? Like they got a lot of holes to fill. Can you convince them to move out of that 3 spot, take a quarterback later on? I know what the head coach said, but I'm not saying they're going to do that. But man, can you try to convince them to say, hey, look, they got a lot of holes. There's a lot of draft picks. Trade up and maybe they take May. Who knows? Or maybe they take another guy is a guy that can, mold into the Josh Allen type. Who knows?
You also have a defensive head coach, another defensive head coach there at the Patriots. So he may want to stick to what he knows best. You know what I mean? He may say, let's trade out of here, go collect picks, and let's go make an all-world defense. You never know what these guys are thinking,
Yeah. I know he came out and said that we're going to draft. He didn't say quarterback, but he said a very important position. The other thing is the GM now is Ron Wolf's son, who was with the Packers. So he runs a very unique thing too, if he's going to be like his dad. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do and how those, who Washington takes. That'll influence the Patriots in a way. You never know. You never know. But
I can't see them not taking Daniels. I can't see them not taking him. Like, what would they be thinking if they did not take Daniels?
Unless they like somebody else. You don't know who they like. I'm not going to say they're not going to do it. Or they won't pick a quarterback at 3, but it's something to think about. Like, maybe it happens. Stranger things have happened on draft night for sure.
Well, who just signed with the Commanders, the quarterback? I thought they just signed a
they traded. Yeah, they traded Sam Howell, Mariota.
Yeah, Mariota as the backup. Yeah.
Sam Howell.
So doesn't that just scream Mariota's the starter and he grooms the kid, the new kid coming in?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Mariota's some stud. I'm just saying that's the veteran play to teach the younger kid what to do. Like, isn't that how everybody does it?
Yeah. What's weird is New England. Who's New England? It's Zappy. Is that really their guy right now?
They got Brissett.
Brissett they brought back, right?
Yeah, they brought. Yeah.
Like, do they feel like, all right, we're going to go with Brissett for? Who knows? I don't know. They got.
Well, I won't be upset with Neighbors or Harrison or Dunze. Definitely not going to be upset. Again, I don't know if McCarthy is a 6 pick guy. But man, that you can only hope that they know. I mean, I know what they're doing, but our first round draft picks have not been great. You know what I'm saying? They just haven't been. Like, you can ramble off a bunch of them between Tony and Flowers and and Neal. Like, we're not batting 300 on the first round picks lately.
No, in the middle rounds have been our demise for years as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always seem to hit on 2 and 3. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Banks and Tibbs, but we have not really been a great first round pick. I think we get too smart or we get too cute. Like, I don't know. We're going to see what Shane's made of out of this draft.
I mean, when you mess the ones up, it really hurts. The Eli Apples, the Bakers, the Flowers. I mean, those hurt, man. Those bad ones where they're gone so fast and trouble.
Dude, Kadarius Toney has failed on 2 teams, not just 1, 2.
Yeah, Shane's done good the last couple of years. I think he's drafted well.
I agree. More confident.
Yeah.
I love everything Shane's done on the defense. Yeah. I think the defensive acquisitions, Pinnock, McFadden, getting Burns, Okereke, even with the McLeod, you know what I mean? He came in a pinch and played for us last year. Like, I think he's done a great job on the defense. I need him to figure out the stinking offense and go get someone. The Waller thing has my panties in a bunch because I just feel like he's letting everybody down.
Yeah.
So, any case, folks, it's another episode of Giants Rush. Thanks for hanging out with us. Always a pleasure. Guys, what we need from you, our fine friends, is Instagram. I'm not putting a lot of content out there because I'm not getting a lot of traction, so I need some help. Tell a friend. NYGiants _rush. We need to start creating more content there. We kind of making an effort to do that. So if you guys could go on there and follow us on Instagram so we can get some more interaction going there. Of course, subscribe to the channel, NY Giants Rush here on YouTube. Just hit the button. Bang. It's easy. Just hit it. Nothing happens except we get an alert when there's more content from us. Spartan asked me to plug the store because he's going to go in there and buy some Rush gear. So nygiantsrush.com, you'll find the interviews and stories, all the stuff that we do there. Player Appreciation Night. Follower Appreciation Night. I have some of the lists. I'm going to be reaching out to you guys. I think next week. How many weeks are we away from the draft?
6 weeks.
6.
6 weeks. So yeah, I usually give you guys 4 weeks. So I'll be reaching out. everybody gets their 10 minutes on the show, get to do their thing. No, Spartan don't get no free gear, Jay. What am I giving him free gear for? I only give free gear to people I like. No, Spartan's going to the draft. So if you're going to the draft, hang out with Spartan. But yeah, so I'm going to send out that interaction for you folks so we can have you guys on draft. It's Thursday night, it's Friday night. We'll split the crew up, have you guys on so you can talk about your picks. I know, Sean was on 2 years with us. I know Mark Thompson's been a staple of this for years. So if you want to join us, just hit up the guys, especially Alex. Alex isn't from here, even though he's in Houston, big Giants fan. Hit Alex up and be like, hey, can I be invited under your name? Because I give them all 20 people to invite. So we appreciate that. Cold, I hope you're coming on this year because I don't think Cold was on. We need to have Cold on because he's the funniest guy in the room. Well, he's making fun of me anyway. What else can I tell you guys? We will be back, of course, next week, 8 o'clock. Follow us. Check this show out. Pass it on to your friends. Make sure everybody knows Giants Rush. And we'll see you guys next week. Bow. Peace out, boys and girls. Kelly hanging out with us all night long.